A single dad had just lost his job, fighting to keep his head above water under a pile of mounting bills and the everyday demands of his two little daughters. But no matter how hard life weighed on him, he never allowed it to snuff out the compassion in his soul. So when he spotted a lost boy and his sick grandma caught in a torrential rain, drenched, scared, disoriented, and with nowhere to turn, he didn't think twice. He swung open his door, ushered them in, dried them off, served them a warm meal, offered a spot to rest, and above all, provided the heartfelt empathy of a man who picks kindness amid his own struggles. What he couldn't foresee was that this modest, heartfelt gesture of goodwill would transform his family's future entirely. Before I reveal what unfolded the next morning, share in the comments where you're tuning into this tale from, and be sure to smash that subscribe button so you catch all our touching narratives packed with surprising twists just like this. And now, have you ever pondered how one fierce downpour might deliver a fresh fate straight to your threshold? Elias Harper hunched at his modest kitchen counter, his deft fingers meticulously molding a chunk of pine under the faint amber glow that danced across the grooves. He was sculpting a miniature sleigh for the approaching holiday festivities, his movements guided by pure habit after endless hours of the same routine. Every muscle seemed to remember each motion after months and months of repeating the same work. Suddenly, the living room light flickered a few times. Elias let out a sigh and adjusted it, so it would shine more steadily. His two daughters were asleep in the next room, curled up beneath mismatched blankets beside a small space heater humming in its steady rhythm. He didn't dare turn the heater up any higher. Last month's electric bill had already pushed him to the edge of what he could handle. It had been 3 weeks since Elias lost his job at the furniture workshop on the outskirts of Springfield. The company shut down. Quietly, no meeting, no warnings. Just a letter slipped into an envelope, and the guilty look in the manager's eyes. The workshop owner blamed the new import tariffs. Costs skyrocketed. "We can't compete with foreign goods anymore," he said, shaking his head. "We have to downsize if we want to survive." Elias remembered clearly the moment he stood among more than 20 other workers, most of them single fathers and mothers just like him. Losing the job didn't just mean losing income. And meanwhile, prices kept climbing everywhere. Milk, bread, gas, even the wooden blocks he used for carving the pine block he used to buy for $15 had now climbed to nearly $25. Almost everything these days has turned into a luxury, even the final paycheck he was owed still hadn't arrived on time. Now every dollar he used to raise his children came from his Etsy shop, Harper's Handiwork, where he sold handmade wooden items, fall animal stars, and angels for Christmas, tiny toys for baby shower parties. He stayed up until late at night, not because of passion, but because it was the only lifeline he had left. Every time his phone chimed with a new order, his heart jumped. A new order meant money for bread, peanut butter, maybe enough to buy more milk, even cough syrup if the girls needed it. The house itself wasn't much to look at. The paint on the walls was peeling. The sofa sagged in the middle of the window beside. The front door had a draft so cold he had to stuff an old towel into the gap to block the wind. But it was still home. It was his. And every month Elias paid the rent with pride, even though sometimes it meant skipping meals. Elias looked at the half-finished wooden block. In that rare moment of silence, the image of Emma, his ex-wife, came back to him. She had left 3 years ago, leaving him with 2 little girls and a house full of memories she hadn't. Died. She had simply left. "I wasn't made to be a mother," she said on the last night. "I'm sorry." Elias didn't blame her. He was just tired of carrying everything alone. He whispered softly, as if reminding himself, "The girls need me. I can't let them down." Elias paused, glancing toward the girls' bedroom door. Light leaked through the crack, illuminating his exhausted face. He still remembered the day Mia asked Daddy, "Why don't I have a mom like my friends?" He had knelt down, looked into his eldest daughter's bright blue eyes, and answered slowly, "Because I chose to stay because I love you." And Lily, his 5-year-old, had never asked, but sometimes he saw her standing still, watching other kids get picked up by their mothers at the school gate, those tiny eyes carrying a sadness that pierced straight through him. Elias took a deep breath, pushing the ache aside. This wasn't the time to grow soft. He still had to finish the sleigh before morning. Came that afternoon. The rain began early at first. It was only a few drops, sliding into long streaks across the dull window pane, but soon thick sheets of rain were pounding against the roof like urgent drums. The sky shifted into a bruised purple, heavy and swollen, then darkened completely within minutes. Elias looked out the window and let out a quiet sigh. Rain like this meant barely anyone would pass by, and even fewer would notice the little wooden trinkets he displayed near the porch, the only thing helping him earn a few extra dollars to care for his 2 girls. He stood up, pulled an old hoodie over his head and stepped onto the porch to gather the items he had just arranged carefully on the makeshift wooden stand, tiny wooden butterfly hangings, wreaths, and even the button-eyed stuffed cats his daughters adored. As he reached to close the door, something strange flickered at the edge of his vision. A streak of yellow and blue was rushing toward the porch through the curtain of rain. Then came a child's cry, thin, fragile, yet powerful enough to pierce through the roaring storm. Startled, Elias stepped back and squinted. An elderly woman, drenched from head to toe, was staggering toward his gate. One hand clutched a faded umbrella, trembling violently. The other gripped the wrist of a little boy around 5 years old. His tiny feet splashed through freezing puddles. With every step, the woman's eyes were wide open, but unfocused. Her silver hair clung to her forehead. Her lips kept murmuring disjointed words no one could make out, and the little boy, shivering, soaked, terrified, looked at Elias as if he were the only safe place left on earth. Elias didn't need even 1 second to think. Hey, come on, hurry, get in here, he shouted, waving them toward him. It's dangerous out there. You'll get sick. The boy immediately pulled his grandmother toward the porch. Elias grabbed a towel from the hook beside the door and wrapped it around the child. First, Noah clung to his leg, his crying softening into sniffles, while the older woman remained frozen, blinking at the floor as if she had no idea where she was. Let me help you, Elias said, gently guiding her inside. It's okay, you're safe now, both of you. The moment they stepped into the warm house, the air filled instantly with the smell of wet clothes, the chill rising from them, and something else. Fear. Elias crouched down, meeting the little boy's eyes. I'm Elias. What's your name? The boy wiped his nose with his sleeve, his voice trembling and hoarse from crying. Noah. And the person with you is Noah swallowed, his voice cracking with fear. My grandma. Her name is Evelyn, but she doesn't remember me anymore. A heavy weight sank into Elias's chest. Evelyn was staring blankly at the empty wall, her lips moving, but forming no words. Elias recognized that look instantly. He had once cared for a neighbor with early dementia. That same hazy, unfocused gaze caught somewhere between panic and confusion, as if their minds stood constantly on the edge of two different worlds. Elias nodded slowly. All right, kiddo, I'm going to help you both get warm and dry. I got a pot of vegetable stew simmering on the stove. You like vegetable stew? Noah nodded. In the boy's mind, everything was still spinning. That morning his grandmother had been laughing, pushing him on the swings at the park. She sang silly songs, bought him ice cream, but on the way home she suddenly stopped in the middle of the street. Who are you? She asked. Noah thought she was joking, but that looked empty, as if someone had switched off the light inside her. He had screamed. He had grabbed her hand, but Evelyn kept walking, lost among the crowd. Then the rain came, and Noah was scared of fear that made him want to run as fast as he could or disappear from the world altogether. But now when Elias spoke, his voice was deep, warm, and kind, and for the first time since the rain began, Noah felt safe. Only a little, but enough for him to breathe again. Elias helped Noah take off his soaked jacket, then gently took Evelyn's trembling hand and guided both of them to the small sofa. In the living room, the sofa creaked under their weight, but it held while stirring the pot of stew on the stove. Elias glanced toward the two strangers sitting in his living room. A small voice inside him whispered, what am I doing? No money for medicine, no money for more food. This month's electric bill still sat on the table untouched, with no idea when he could pay it. But then Elias looked into Noah's eyes, full of fear, despair, and the faintest glimmer of hope that someone might help him, and he thought of Mia and Lily sleeping in the next room. If someday his daughters got lost, he would pray someone else would do the same. Elias poured 3 bowls of stew, placed a few crackers beside them, and lit a small candle on the table to make the room look a little brighter. Sometimes, when the world gave you nothing but storms, the only thing a person could do was open the door. Elias set the 3 bowls on the chipped coffee table. The tiny candle flickered, casting scattered waves of light and shadow across the wall. Noah was curled in the corner of the sofa, knees pulled to his chest, body still trembling despite being wrapped in a thick towel. Elias handed the boy a bowl crouched to eye level and said warmly and firmly, here, you go eat slowly. Okay, it's hot. Yes, sir. Noah nodded softly, his lips still quivering. Thank you, he whispered, his voice so faint it almost dissolved into the air. Elias picked up the second bowl and turned to Evelyn. She sat motionless, hands resting on her lap, her eyes fixed on the flickering candle, as though she were staring into something far, far away. Elias knelt in front of her, offering the bowl with both hands. Miss Evelyn, he said gently, then raised his voice just a touch. I made something warm for you. Evelyn blinked a few times and slowly turned toward him. A flicker of recognition, or maybe just curiosity, crossed her eyes, but it vanished just as quickly. I'm sorry, she murmured, her voice dragging, exhausted and distant. I don't know where I am. This isn't the place. Her sentence trailed off as her eyes darted toward the wall, then the window. Then to Noah, her face tightening in confusion. After that, she lowered her head as if confessing a mistake. That boy He just keeps following me." Elias froze for a moment. His fingers tightened slightly around the ceramic bowl, but he forced himself to stay calm. He set it down on the table gently, as if placing down something fragile. "That's Noah," he said. "He's your grandson. You two have been together all day." Evelyn shook her head, her voice trembling, frightened. No, that's impossible. I was at the store. I was buying jam or something. Then there was a train." I don't. Her words fractured into disjointed murmurs. Elias placed his hand over her cold fingers. "It's all right. You're safe now. Try breathing with me." "Okay." His voice was low, slow, steady. The same way he soothed Mia whenever she woke from nightmares. Evelyn looked at him as if wanting to say something, but then she shook her head, helplessly closed her eyes, and leaned back into the cushion. Completely drained, Elias stood and glanced toward the hallway. Mia and Lily were still asleep. He went into the back room, grabbed a dry blanket and one of his old sweaters, and returned to the living room, where Noah sat upright, eyes wobbling with worried grandmas. "Sick," the boy said suddenly, his voice shaking but clear. "This morning she was fine. She pushed me on the swing and laughed, but on the way home she stopped like she was locked up. Then she didn't know who I was. She kept walking everywhere. I didn't know what to do." Elias swallowed hard, his throat tightening. He draped the blanket over Evelyn and sat beside Noah, pulling the boy close against his chest. "You did the right thing," Elias said, gently smoothing the boy's wet curls. "You stayed with her. You were very brave." Noah nodded, but tears kept spilling down. "She's gonna die." "Isn't she no sweetheart?" Elias whispered. "She's just scared. An older person's mind can act like this. But we're taking care of her, aren't we?" Together, Elias helped Noah eat a little more stew and handed him a towel to dry his hair. Then he made a small bed on the floor, pillows and blankets from a hallway closet, just like he always did when his daughters were sick and wanted to sleep close to him. When Noah finally drifted off, Elias sat alone in the dark. He looked toward his daughter's bedroom apart. Him whispered, "What am I doing? I don't even know who they are." He remembered the night Emma left. She said she couldn't be a mother. And now he was taking on responsibility for two strangers. But when he looked at Noah's tiny face, softened in sleep, Elias knew he had no other choice. Some things in life matter more than safety. They were called character. "If my girls see me do the right thing," he murmured, "they'll learn to do the right thing." Evelyn had nearly fallen asleep sitting up, but around midnight the Real storm began. Elias had just nodded off in the armchair when he heard rustling. He opened his eyes and saw Evelyn standing at the front door, her shadow stretching long across the floor. "Miss Evelyn." She didn't answer. She reached for the door handle. Elias shot up, racing across the room. "Miss Evelyn." "No, it's late. You need to rest." Evelyn turned around, her eyes empty and wild. "He's waiting for me at the red mailbox." "There's no mailbox here," Elias said, laying a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're in my house. It's raining outside. Remember?" Evelyn blinked rapidly, then suddenly burst into tears, sudden, violent. "Desperate, I can't find him, my son. He was just here, right here." Elias lunged forward and caught her before she collapsed. He held her tightly and whispered, "So I've got you. You're okay." "I'm here." Her skin was burning, high fever. Elias guided her back to the sofa, wrapped her in more blankets, then rushed to the kitchen for a cold towel. He placed it on her forehead, gently brushing aside her wet hair. She mumbled names: Michael, James, Sophia, but never Noah. Jolted awake, hugging his knees, his voice barely a breath. "She's never been like this, never." Elias turned and knelt beside him. "It's not your fault, Noah. Her mind is just tired. But she knows you love her. I promise." Noah leaned into Elias's breath, broken. "You won't let her go, right?" Elias pressed a soft kiss to the boy's hair. "Never, sweetheart." Around 3 a.m, Evelyn tried to get up again, this time violently. "Get away," she screamed. "Who are you? What do you want?" Elias raised both hands, struggling to remain calm. "Miss Evelyn, it's me, Elias. I'm helping you." But when he reached toward her, she shoved him hard in the chest. Elias stumbled, nearly falling. "Don't touch me," she cried, her voice cracking with terror. Tears stung Elias's eyes, not from pain, but from helplessness. He hadn't been able to keep Emma, couldn't keep his job. And now he didn't know how to keep this woman safe in his own home. But he still tried. He stepped back, voice soft as a lullaby. "Miss Evelyn, Noah is here. He needs you. Please sit down." At Noah's name, Evelyn froze. She turned and saw the boy trembling in the corner. "Noah," she whispered. "Yes, it's me." Noah cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. And in that moment, Evelyn collapsed. Elias lunged forward in time to catch her. That night, Elias didn't sleep. He sat between two strangers, one young, one old, watching every breath they took, while the storm outside kept howling every now. And then Evelyn shifted, calling out names or reaching for shadows. And each time Elias took her hand, he didn't know what dawn would bring, but tonight, just tonight, this small, weary home had become a refuge, not just from the storm outside, but from the storm raging inside Evelyn's mind. Through the window, Elias saw the first streaks of dawn cutting through the night. The rain still fell, but softer, calmer, as if the sky itself had grown tired after a night of fury. He brushed his hand gently over Evelyn's silver hair, then looked at Noah curled beside her two fragile lives that fate had delivered to his doorstep. And in that quiet moment between the morning light and the soft breaths of the two sleeping souls, Elias felt something shift. Deep inside himself, he was no longer just a man. Trying to survive, he was becoming the keeper of someone else's hope to reign. Finally stopped a little after 6 in the morning, Elias noticed the first changed silence. No more pounding water crashing onto the metal roof. No more wind lashing against the windows, only the occasional drip from the gutters and the soft, cautious chirping of birds. As if they too were exhausted after the long night, Elias sat hunched in the old armchair's arms. Folded across his chest's neck, was stiff from staying awake. To watch over them, a thin gray streak of early morning slipped quietly through the curtains, casting a pale but strangely peaceful glow of the living room. On the sofa, Evelyn lay still, wrapped in layers of blankets that Elias had pulled up and readjusted at least 5 times during the night. Her fever had broken sometime around 4 in the morning, after hours of mumbling, trembling, and clinging to scattered bits of memory. Now her breathing was light, and steady, her hands no longer reaching for. Invisible things, Noah was curled up on the floor beside her, his small chest rising and falling with each breath, one arm clutching the little wooden cat Elias had given him before he fell asleep. Elias rubbed his eyes, stretched slowly, so he wouldn't wake anyone, then walked into the kitchen and switched on the kettle. He stood there quietly, watching the milky white steam drift from the spout, slow, gentle, much like the morning itself. His body was exhausted, but his heart felt heavy in a different way. Something about last night made him feel as though he had witnessed the most fragile part of being human, a child trying desperately to hold on to a grandmother slipping away from reality, and an elderly woman searching in panic for her way back to herself. And in the middle of all that, something inside Elias had quietly changed as well. When the kettle whistled, he poured water over the last chamomile tea bag in the house, then walked softly back toward the living room. But as soon as he reached the doorway, he stopped. Evelyn was sitting up, her back was straight, her hair still messy, but now gently tucked behind her ear, and most importantly, her eyes, the eyes that had been lost and terrified all night, were now clear, focused, awake. Elias stepped into the room. Slowly, Evelyn turned to him and smiled, a small, tired smile, but sincere one. "Good morning," she said softly. Her voice was hoarse, a little weak, but no longer fractured. "I think I owe you quite a lot." Elias blinked, tightening his grip on the mug. You remember," Evelyn nodded lightly. She looked down at Noah, then back at Elias. "Yes, I remember the rain. I remember getting lost. I remember this little boy running after me and me looking at him without knowing who he was." Her voice caught. "But now I know." She reached down and brushed her hand through Noah's hair. The boy stirred, blinking groggily. Then his eyes flew wide open when he recognized her grandma. He whispered. Evelyn smiled, wider her eyes, glistening. "Yes, sweetheart, it's me." Noah shot up and threw his arms around her, holding her so tightly she almost fell backward. She let out a raspy but relieved laugh and hugged him just as tightly, one arm around his back, the other smoothing his hair. As if it were the most precious thing she owned, Elias stepped forward and set the mug on the table. "You had a really high fever last night." He said. "You were confused the whole time. I was worried, sick." Evelyn looked up at him, still holding Noah close. "I have early stage Alzheimer's," she said plainly. Her voice didn't shake, only sadness lingered. "I was diagnosed last spring. I told myself it was early, that I would notice when it got worse." She swallowed hard. "Yesterday was supposed to be just a simple day at the park with Noah, but then it was like the sky inside me went dark. I didn't know my name. I didn't know who he was. I just kept walking." Elias knelt on one knee, his eyes softening. "You're safe now." Evelyn shook her head, guilt flooding her expression. "I didn't tell my son. I didn't want to burden him. He's always busy, always flying somewhere. I thought if I pretended to be fine, I could protect him from this. But instead, I frightened him. I frightened Noah, and I ended up in a stranger's home, forcing you to carry everything." Elias gave her a gentle, almost strangely tender smile. "You're not a burden, you're a person. And no one shows up at my doorstep by accident." Evelyn stared at him for a long moment, then broke down in tears. "Why did you do it? You could have called the police, called an ambulance, but you took care of us." Elias sat on the floor, leaning back against the sofa. He stayed quiet for a few seconds. "Years ago, my wife left the girls with me. She didn't die. She just couldn't handle the pressure. I used to be angry, used to feel abandoned. But one night my daughter asked me, 'Daddy, do you hate Mom?' He paused. And I told her, 'No, I don't hate her.' Adults get lost sometimes just like kids. And when that happens, someone needs to open a door for them." Evelyn fell silent. Last night Elias continued. I didn't know if I could help, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't shut the door. If my daughters see me do it, they'll learn to shut the door on others too. And that's not the world I wanted to grow up in. Evelyn wept openly. Thank you so much. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath. May I borrow your phone? I need to call my son. He needs to know where we are. Elias pulled his old Android phone from his hoodie pocket. The screen was cracked in one corner, but still worked. Evelyn's hand trembled as she dialed the number. Her thumb hovered over the call button for a long moment, as if gathering all the courage she had left. The phone rang once, twice. Then a man's voice burst through sharp tense, overflowing with worry. Mom. Where are you? Evelyn closed her eyes as tears rose again. I'm safe now, Benjamin. I'm all right. I'm so sorry. Right then, Mia, 8 years old, walked sleepily out of the hallway, eyes still heavy with dreams. Daddy, do we have company? Elias stood and pulled his daughter into a hug. Yes, sweetheart. I'll explain soon. For now, can you help me get a few more blankets? Mia peeked over his shoulder, saw Noah and Evelyn, and instead of fear, she offered a small, warm smile. They need help, Daddy. Elias nodded the corners of his mouth, lifting into a gentle smile. Lily, 5 years old, came scampering after her sister. Stared at Noah for a moment, then asked with perfect innocence, do you want to play dolls with me? Noah nodded, though he was still gripping his grandmother's sleeve. Moments like these, where children didn't see strangers, only friends, made Elias certain that in at least this one thing he had raised his daughters right. Half an hour later, the sound of tires gliding over wet pavement made Elias glance toward the front window. A sleek black SUV came to a sudden stop just outside the gate. He stepped closer, one hand gently lifting the curtain, the other braced against the worn wooden frame. The car rolled forward slowly, then jerked to a halt. Its glossy black paint reflected the faint morning sunlight, and the leftover raindrops glittered on its surface. Like tiny glass beads, the driver's door flew open before the engine had even fully shut off. A tall man climbed out, looking as if he'd been racing against the night itself to get there. Late 30s, early 40s, wrinkled dress shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows, suit jacket draped loosely over one arm, sharp features, rough stubble, and eyes soaked with the emptiness of someone who hadn't slept in many hours. The moment he saw the house, his brisk walk turned into a breathless rush. Elias hurried out and opened the door before the man could knock. You must be Benjamin, right? Elias asked, his voice calm. The man's chest heaved violently. Yes, he panted. I'm Benjamin Hayes. Is my mother here? Is Noah here? They're both safe, Elias replied, his voice low and warm. Coming. Benjamin nearly stumbled as he crossed the threshold. His eyes swept across the small living room, then locked instantly on the sight before him. Evelyn sitting on the sofa, still looking tired, but with clear, sharp eyes. Noah curled tightly against her, breathing steadily. Mom, just one word, but it sounded like it fell from the deepest part of Benjamin's chest. His knees went weak, and he dropped to the floor in front of Evelyn, clutching her hands, as if afraid that if he loosened his grip even a little, everything would vanish. What happened? Where did you go? I called the police. Every hospital within 15 kilometers. I thought you had his voice. Broke, unable to finish the sentence. Son, Evelyn whispered, her trembling hand cupping his cheek. I know. I'm so sorry. He stared at his mother for a long time, the confusion, relief, and anger tangled together, impossible to separate. I don't understand. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me you were like this? Evelyn's face fell, her gaze heavy with exhaustion. Because I didn't want you to worry. I thought I still had time. I thought I could control it. Benjamin closed his eyes, fighting down the flood of emotion rising inside him. Then he turned, directing his gaze toward Elias, who had remained quietly by the door, silently taking everything into the one who brought them into your home. He asked, his tone low, but filled with gratitude, to the one who found them. Elias nodded. They showed up at my door in the middle of the storm last night. Your mother didn't know who she was. Noah was terrified and soaked through. I couldn't leave him out there. Benjamin stood up, running a hand through his still slightly damp hair, then looked more closely at Elias. His eyes skimmed over the small room, the old rug patched in several places, neatly stacked handmade wooden crafts in a basket, the small space heater humming softly in the hallway. And from somewhere down the hall came the faint sound of a child coughing. His voice softened. You got kids too, Mia? And Lily. Elias answered, they're probably awake by now. Benjamin looked back at his mother and son, then turned to Elias again. You did all of this for strangers? Elias met his eyes without flinching. Last night, they weren't strangers anymore. There were two people in trouble. That's reason enough for me to open the door. Silence fell between them, heavy yet gentle. Benjamin drew a deep breath, his voice turning hoarse. Thank you. I don't even know your name. Elias Harper. Benjamin extended his hand and shook Elias's firmly. The grip weighted with emotion. Elias, I owe you more than I can say. I have no idea how to repay you. Elias just gave a faint smile. You don't need to repay me, just take good care of your mother. But Benjamin didn't let go right away. His gaze swept the room again. Elias's tired face, the worn hoodie, the peeling paint on the walls, the small carved animals lined up neatly. The businessman in him woke up. You made these? He asked, nodding toward the colorful wooden pieces by the window. Elias nodded. I sell them online. I've been making them since I lost my job at the workshop. Where did you work? At a furniture shop. Closed down last month. Couldn't handle the rising costs. And the new import tariffs. Benjamin paused for a beat. Yeah, my company's been hit by that too. Then he looked Elias straight in the eye. But you're supporting your family. Just with these, Benjamin walked over and picked up a wooden slate, turning it in his hands. Studying every curve and line, the craftsmanship was far too good for a little garage setup like this. Just enough to get by, Elias admitted. But I have to keep going. I've got 2 little girls to take care of. Giving up isn't an option. Benjamin silently examined the piece's expression, shifting from appraisal to genuine admiration. Then he looked up, and even he seemed surprised by what he was about to say. I run a company that distributes decor, handcrafted items, and handmade goods. We've been looking for small suppliers with real skill what you're making. He held up the sleigh. His beautiful Elias only managed a slight frown, not yet fully understanding. Thank you. I'm serious, Benjamin went on, his voice suddenly firm. I want to help, not just because you helped my mother, and Noah, though God knows I owe you more than I can ever repay, but because what you're doing has real value. I have a network resources. If you're willing, I want to partner with you, get your products into more hands, build something together. Elias blinked. Those words seemed to hit a very deep place. Inside him, a place that had for too long known only survival. Not dreams, you mean a real contract. I'm talking about an entire platform, a marketing plan, a distribution system. And you won't have to do this alone anymore. Evelyn watched Elias from the sofa, a warm smile on her face. Noah slept against her, more peaceful than it had been in a long time. Elias looked down at his dark, roughened hands and fingers, calloused from years of work, then drew a deep breath for the first time in many months. He allowed himself to think about something bigger than just getting by. He lifted his head. Okay, let's talk. Benjamin smiled and shook his hand again. I'll send you my contact details. Next week, I'll really come back with a contract lawyer and a branding specialist. But there's one thing I can tell you. Right now, you won't have to worry about rent ever again. Not ever. Elias's throat tightened. He had to swallow before he could speak. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, Benjamin replied, placing a hand on his shoulder. Just keep doing what you've been doing, creating beautiful things and opening your door to people. 3 weeks later, Elias Harper stood in a space that had once been nothing more than a dusty storage corner, gray, faded walls nearly forgotten behind the West Side Market coupe of Springfield. Now it had transformed into a small, warm shop filled with soft yellow lights, clean wooden shelves, neatly hung woven baskets, and brand-new display boards, all made by Elias's own hands as handcrafted pieces, hung across the walls like tiny flags of survival wooden animals, Christmas ornaments, table runners, with borders so intricate they look almost like real lace. Right on a large wall above the counter, a wooden sign hung straight and proud, carved in soft, elegant strokes, were the words Harper's Haven. Elias placed his hand on the edge of the new counter, inhaling the scent of fresh wood, and the faint trace of lingering varnish to space. Had taken only a few days to transform thanks to Benjamin. He had called in builders, designers, branding specialists, yet Benjamin had never once tried to take control. Everything from the wall color to the shelf placement to the store's name, Benjamin left entirely up to Elias. You're the heart of this place, Benjamin had said once, kneeling on the floor as he opened a crate Elias had brought from home. I just want to make sure it's big enough for the world to hear you. Elias had only laughed and bowing his head and getting back to work. And now, standing in the finished shop, he heard tiny footsteps rushing from behind Mia, ran and beaming, holding a coil of yarn, and a small green plastic dinosaur. Daddy, Grandma, Evelyn made me a snake out of yarn. Even his eyes, Elias laughed and bent down to lift the little creation. The snake was a bit fuzzy, its eyes slightly crooked, but it had a charm all its own. She's getting better, Elias said, ruffling Mia's hair. She might even give me competition soon. From the workroom at the back of the store, Evelyn looked up, offering a thin but proud smile. Her hand still trembled. Sometimes her memory had blank patches, but she came in every day, making simple crafts, watching over Noah, and feeling like she was still useful. She had told Benjamin once in a surprisingly firm voice, "Let me contribute, I don't want to just sit at home." Benjamin agreed immediately, and soon they had built something far bigger. Under Elias's guidance, they founded Hands a Haven, a cooperative for single-parent seniors and workers who had lost their jobs but still had skills in their hands. They taught with carving, sewing, and online selling, creating both jobs and hope. Benjamin handled the business, marketing, inventory, shipping. Elias, he was the creative soul. Opening day of the first store felt like a small festival people. Came to look browsing by at a table nearby sat a pitcher homemade lemonade Lily in a pink dress Elias had sewn from leftover fabric, was handing out cookies to everyone when the first customer handed over money for a small wooden wreath. Elias's hands trembled slightly. "It's beautiful," the woman said, turning the piece under the light. "You made all of it." Elias smiled a bit sheepish. "Yes, ma'am. Everything is made right here, has a soul," she said, "not like the mass-produced stuff at the mall." Elias could only smile bigger. By noon. They had sold out 3 baskets of goods. Around 2 in the afternoon, Benjamin arrived, shirt sleeves rolled up, speckled with paint, carrying a folder. He quickly sat on a chair. When he spotted Elias, "How's it going?" he asked. Elias leaned against the counter, cheeks slightly flushed from talking to customers all morning. "Better than I dared hope." Benjamin walked a slow circle around the shop, nodding with satisfaction. "You built something real here." Elias people can feel it. Elias lowered his gaze, shy but glowing with pride. "I just want to keep the lights on." Benjamin tilted his head with a grin. "And somehow you ended up lighting far more than that." But the journey hadn't been easy the first week. There were almost no customers. Elias sat behind the counter, counting every dollar, thinking about closing just when his spirits hit rock bottom. An elderly woman walked and picked up a wooden cloth and burst into tears. "My son used to make things like this," she whispered, voice trembling. "But he's gone now. Thank you for keeping his craft alive." In that moment, Elias understood he couldn't give up, not for money, but for meaning. Right then the door opened again. A man stood in the doorway, hesitant. His hands were rough, his jacket patched, his clothes still smelling of machine oil. He carried a bundle of old fabric. Elias stepped forward. "Hello, can I help?" "You the man?" Cleared his throat, glancing around. "I heard this place helps people who know how to sew." Elias nodded. "That's right, you sew. I've upholstered seats for 20 years. Just got laid off. I got skill. Just nowhere left to use." Elias gave him a wide, genuine smile. He pulled a registration form from behind the counter and handed it to him. "Fill this out. We'll see where you can fit." The man looked at the papers, eyes glistening. "That's it. That's simple." "That's simple," Elias said, then added with a knowing smile, "Here, no one gets turned away." Benjamin stood nearby, arms crossed, quietly watching. Evelyn looked over and nodded gently. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. A small crowd gathered around a new plaque mounted beside the door in memory of that rainy night. When kindness opened the first door, passers-by stopped, read the inscription, then looked into the window where warm light spilled out. Some stepped inside, curious. Others simply stood for a moment, smiled, and continued on. But each of them carried something with them, a story about kindness, about not closing the door when someone needs help, and about how a small act can change many lives. Elias stood inside, looking out at the street, in his chest a warm spread, not from a heater, but from the truth that he had created a place of community, an extended family for those who needed it. And that was exactly what he wanted his daughters to learn. When you open the door for others, you are also opening the door for yourself. Autumn settled over the neighborhood with crisp mornings and an amber sky. The breeze carried the scent of cinnamon, dried leaves, and rows of trees, standing like gatekeepers draped in brilliant shades of gold and orange. Change had arrived not only with the weather, but with the life of Elias Harper inside Harper's Haven. His small but cozy shop morning sunlight streamed through the glass window, laying a warm glow across the wooden floor. Shelves were filled with handmade scarves, crochet blankets, and tiny wooden turkeys for Thanksgiving. A small heater hummed softly in the corner, but the real warmth in the room came from the laughter of women and children echoing throughout the space. Elias stood behind the counter, arranging a new order. His fingers moved with practiced rhythm. Tape, thank you cards, tracking labels. It had all become a cadence of rhythm, a stability of the sense of control over life he once thought he had lost just behind him. Evelyn was helping a teenage girl learn how to hold a crochet hook. "Don't grip it too tightly," Evelyn said, her voice patient yet firm. "Let the yarn guide you. Don't force it. Listen to it." Elias glanced over and smiled. Sophia, one of 3 teens from the local shelter, sat quietly absorbing every word on their first day here. The kids barely spoke. Elias knew that silence. Well, it wasn't indifference. It was a sound of wounds learning to trust again. In the back office, Benjamin typed rapidly on his laptop, coordinating shipping schedules and updating supplier boards. Lately, he wore jeans and rolled-up sleeves more often than crisp suits. He looked lighter, less strained than in those early days. Perhaps he, too, was finding a different version of himself here, calmer, truer. He stepped out, stretched, and walked to Elias's side. Website traffic is up 28% this week, Benjamin said, showing Elias's phone. "We're getting international orders now. Germany, Australia, even one from Japan." Elias laughed, eyes widening. "Someone on the other side of the world is buying Something Lily made. It's not just Lily's work, Benjamin replied, voice soft, but full of pride. They're buying you, Elias. Your vision, your heart. Elias leaned against the counter, slowly shaking his head. I never asked for any of this. You didn't have to ask, Benjamin said, standing close beside him. You deserve it. They both fell silent for a moment, taking the scene. Before them, women of all ages gathered around the tables, talking, sewing, some teaching, some learning, some laughing, some simply existing in. Peaceful, quiet, Mia and Lily ran past like little gusts of wind, pieces of ribbon tied around their waists, like superhero belts. Elias observed a life unfolding around him, close, rough-edged, honest, beautiful, in its imperfection. Then he turned to Benjamin, lowering his voice. Do you know what scares me the most? Benjamin raised a brow. What, that all of this could disappear, that it's just a beautiful dream, and one day I'll wake up again in that tiny old house broke, fighting to keep the lights on with. Nothing but a basket full of hope. Benjamin looked at Elias for a long time, eyes serious, yet warm. That won't happen. He said slowly, you built something people can't take away, not because of me, but because of who you are. Elias's eyes glimmered, though he didn't cry. He didn't need it any more. That stormy night had run out the last of his tears and left something else behind, resilience. Right then the door opened. A young reporter stepped inside, camera slung over her shoulder. Is it true, all of this started just because someone knocked on your door during a storm? She asked. Elias looked straight into the lens, his voice low but steady. No, he said, it started because I opened the door that night when locking up the shop. Elias stood under the awning watching the drizzle fall over the street. He remembered the night Evelyn appeared, remembered himself standing in the rain, just like this, the night Emma left, the night the factory closed, the night he thought he was about to lose everything, but he hadn't lost. He had found, and what he found was this: when you open the door for someone else, sometimes you're opening a door for yourself. The next morning, a man stopped in front of the shop and read the wooden plaque. He turned to his wife and read aloud in memory of that rainy night. When kindness opened the door, I wonder what story is behind it. Elias, standing nearby, smiled and stepped forward. It's the story of not closing your door when someone needs you, he said gently, because sometimes we're the ones who need help. We just don't realize it. Yet the man nodded thoughtfully, then pushed the door open. That evening, as the sun set over Springfield, light spilled out from Harper's Haven. Not just electric light, but the glow of hope, a community of compassion, learning how to survive on its own. Inside the shop, candles were lit. A few women continued working, their faint laughter drifting through the room. Evelyn was teaching a newcomer how to tie a yarn knot. Noah and Elias's daughters sat on the floor, painting bright colors blooming across the sheets of paper. Benjamin stood beside Elias, both of them looking out through the window. Do you know the most miraculous thing about all this? Benjamin asked. What is it? Elias turned. That it didn't start with money or a business plan or any marketing strategy. Benjamin said with a smile, it started because a man opened his door in the middle of the storm. That's it, one small gesture, but it changed everything. Elias nodded, saying nothing more. He didn't need to. Because sometimes the biggest changes begin with the simplest acts, and sometimes all the world needs is someone willing to open the door. As winter approached, the neighborhood transformed under a blanket of soft snow, the air crisp with the promise of holidays, and the streets lined with twinkling lights that danced like fireflies against the evening sky. Inside Harper's Haven, the atmosphere buzzed with even more energy than before. Shelves now overflowed with seasonal delights, handmade snowflakes dangling from threads, delicate wreaths adorned with pine cones and ribbons, and tiny wooden nativity scenes that Elias had carved with extra care. Each piece told a story of resilience and creativity born from hands that knew hardship. Evelyn had taken to leading small workshops in the back room. Her sessions on knitting scarves, drawing a steady group of seniors from the local community center. Her voice, though sometimes faltering, carried a wisdom that inspired those around her. One afternoon, as flakes fell gently outside, she sat with a circle of elderly women, their needles clicking in rhythm. Don't rush the stitch, she advised a woman named Clara, who was struggling with tangled yarn. Let it flow naturally like memories. Sometimes they knot up, but with patience they unravel. Clara nodded, her wrinkled hand steadying as she followed Evelyn's guidance. Nearby, Noah played with Mia and Lily, building forts from empty cardboard boxes that had once held supplies for the shop. Their laughter a melody that filled the air, cutting through the quiet concentration of the adults. Elias watched from behind the counter, a small smile playing on his lips. This was more than a business. It was a sanctuary, a place where people came not just to buy, but to heal, to connect, to find purpose. In the midst of life storms, Benjamin entered, shaking snow from his coat, his laptop tucked under his arm. He got orders pouring in from across the state. He announced, his breath visible in the chilly air, even some from Canada. Elias raised an eyebrow. Canada? Seriously? Benjamin nodded, grinning. We've Hit a niche market. People love the authenticity of the stories. Behind each item, I've been working on a blog series featuring the artisans here. It humanizes the products, turns them into more than just objects. Elias leaned forward, intrigued. Tell me more. Benjamin pulled up a chair and opened his laptop. See here, he said, pointing to a draft post. This one is about Clara. She lost her husband last year and found solace in knitting. Her scarves aren't just warm, they're woven with love and lost people connect with. That Elias read the words on the screen, his heart swelling with pride. You're turning this into something bigger than I imagined. Benjamin shrugged, but his eyes sparkled. It's what you started, Elias. By opening that door, you didn't just save my family. You sparked a movement. As the day wore on, more visitors trickled in. A young mother with a baby on her hip browsing the ornaments, a couple picking out gifts for their grandchildren. Each sale was accompanied by a conversation, a shared moment that reinforced the shop's ethos. One customer, an older gentleman named Harold, paused at a plaque by the door, reading it aloud in memory of that rainy night. When kindness opened the door, he turned to Elias. What's the story behind this? Elias wiped his hands on his apron and stepped closer. It's about a night much like the ones we've had lately, stormy, uncertain. A lost grandma and her grandson showed up at my door. I took them in, not knowing it would lead to all this. He gestured around the shop. Harold's eyes misted over. Reminds me of a time when I was down on my luck. A stranger helped me get back on my feet. Kindness ripples, doesn't it? Elias nodded. Exactly. And here we're trying to keep those ripples going. Harold bought a small wooden bird feeder and left with promise to return. The interaction lingered with Elias, reminding him of how far they'd come. But success brought its own challenges. As the shop grew, so did the demands. Inventory needed restocking. Workshops required more materials, and the cooperative expanded to include more members. One evening after closing, Elias sat with Benjamin, going over the books. We're stretching thin, Elias admitted. We need more space. Maybe another location. Benjamin tapped his pen. Thoughtfully, I've been thinking the same. There's an old warehouse downtown. It's run down, but with some work, it could be perfect for a larger workshop. Elias hesitated. The cause. Benjamin waved him off. I got investors interested in the social impact angle. This isn't just business. It's community building. Let's scout it tomorrow. The next day, they toured the warehouse, its vast, empty space, echoing with potential. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light filtering through cracked windows. Elias envisioned rows of workbenches, laughter echoing off the walls, classes teaching skills to those in need. It's got good bones, he said. Benjamin agreed. And by weeks, and they had a plan in motion. But not everything was smooth. Evelyn's condition fluctuated. Some days she was sharp, leading sessions with confidence. Others she struggled, forgetting names or steps in a pattern. One such day, she sat staring at a half-finished blanket, confusion clouding her eyes. No one noticed. First, Grandma, are you okay? She blinked, looking up, as if emerging from a fog. I think I lost my place. Elias knelt beside her, gently taking her hand. It's okay, Evelyn. We all lose our way sometimes. Let's start from here. He guided her fingers back to the yarn, and together they continued the pattern. By evening, she was smiling again, but the incident weighed on Elias. Later that night, as the girls slept, he confided in Benjamin. I'm worried about her. Benjamin nodded. She's family. Now we'll get her the best care. Maybe hire a part-time aide for shop. Elias agreed, relieved to have a partner who understood the human side of their venture. As the holidays neared, the shop hosted its first community event, a craft fair with booths from local artisans, hot cider, and carols playing softly in the background. The turnout was overwhelming. People from all walks of life mingling, sharing stories. Mia and Lily helped at a kids' table teaching simple origami, while Noah proudly showed off his own creations. A reporter from the local paper covered the event. Her article the next day, titled From Storm to Sanctuary, the heartwarming story of Harper's Haven. It detailed Elias's act of kindness, the partnership with Benjamin, and the cooperative's impact. The publicity brought even more attention. Donations poured and volunteers offered their time, and orders skyrocketed. Elias found himself interviewed on a morning radio show, sharing his journey. I never set out to change the world, he said, just to do the right thing. But it turns out one door open leads to many more. Spring arrived with blooming flowers and renewed energy. The warehouse had been renovated into a bustling hub named Haven's Workshop. Classes ran daily, from woodworking to digital marketing for small businesses. Evelyn thrived in her role, mentoring others, her good days outnumbering the bad with medication adjustments and support. Noah excelled in school, his confidence boosted by the stable environment at home. Mia and Lily flourished too, their drawings now adorning the shop walls, inspiring customers. One afternoon, a new face appeared, a young man named Alex. Hesitant at the door, Elias greeted him. Welcome to Harper's Haven. Looking for something specific? Alex shifted nervously. I heard you help people who've lost jobs. Elias nodded. Come and let's talk over coffee, Alex. Shared a story laid off. From a factory skilled in metalwork, but no outlet, Elias. Listen, then offer join our cooperative. We've got space in the workshop. Alex's eyes lit up really just like that. Elias smiled. Here, no one gets turned away. That evening as the sun set, Elias stood outside, watching the neighborhood come alive. He reflected on the journey from that fateful rainy night to now the black SUV. That changed everything. Wasn't just about business. It was about connection, about opening doors, not just for others, but for oneself, and in that he found his true purpose. Winter returned, but this time with joy rather than dread. The shop glowed with lights. A tree decorated with handmade ornaments stood in the corner. During a quiet moment, Evelyn pulled Elias aside. Thank you, she said, her voice steady, for everything. Elias hugged her. No, thank you for showing me that even in confusion, there's clarity and kindness. As the year ended, Elias looked forward, knowing that whatever storms came, they would weather them together, because once you open the door, you invite in not just people, but possibilities. Of community grew stronger. Events became regular features, from summer barbecues to fall harvest fairs, each one reinforcing bonds. One story stood out. A woman named Rosa, single mother of 3, joined the cooperative. Her talent for beading turned into a line of jewelry that sold out quickly. Her success inspired others, creating a cycle of empowerment. Benjamin expanded the online presence, launching an app for virtual workshops, reaching beyond Springfield International. Interest grew with features in global magazines. Elias traveled to conferences, sharing the model of kindness-driven business. At home, the girls thrived. Mia starting a school club for crafts, Lily dreaming of becoming an artist, Noah now like a brother to them. Evelyn's health stabilized with support network in place. Challenges arose, supply chain issues, economic dips. But each time the team rallied, drawing on their collective strength. One crisis, a flood, damaged a warehouse, but volunteers rebuilt. It's stronger, symbolizing their resilience. Through it all, Elias remained the heart, humble, grounded, always ready to open the door. As years passed, Harper's Haven became a beacon, replicated in other cities, a franchise of compassion. Benjamin and Elias, partners in every sense, celebrated milestones. But the true reward was in the lives. Changed the doors, opened the hope, kindled, and it all started with one act on a rainy night, proving that kindness indeed changes everything. In the quiet moments, Elias would sit carving, remembering that night, smiling at how far one open door could lead. Winter's embrace tightened around Springfield, blanketing the town in a serene layer of snow that muffled the world outside. Inside Harper's Haven, the shop pulsed with a different kind of warmth. The scent of cinnamon candles mingled with the fresh aroma of pine from the wreaths hanging on every available hook. Customers bundled in coats and scarves browsed the aisles, their breaths forming small clouds as they admired the latest additions to the inventory. Elias had spent countless late nights crafting a series of intricate snow globes, each one encapsulating a miniature winter scene, complete with tiny wooden figures skating on a frozen pond or building snowmen under a starry sky. These pieces have become instant hits, drawing in families eager to capture a bit of holiday magic. Evelyn, now more comfortable in her role, organized a weekly storytelling hour where she shared tales from her youth, her voice weaving through the room like a gentle thread, pulling listeners into a bygone era. Noah often sat her feet wide-eyed, absorbing every word, while Mia and Lily helped pass around hot cocoa to the attendees. One particularly snowy evening, as flurries danced outside the windows, a group of children gathered for a special workshop. Elias taught them how to carve simple ornaments from soft balsa with his hands, guiding theirs with patience. Remember, he said softly, it's not about perfection. It's about putting a piece of yourself into it. A little girl named Sophie struggled with her knife. Slipping on the wood, Elias knelt beside her, showing her how to angle the blade. See, like this, gentle strokes. Sophie's face lit up as the shape emerged, a lopsided star. But to her, it was a masterpiece. Thank you, Mr. Harper, she beamed, hugging the ornament. Close moments like these reaffirmed Elias's belief in the power of small acts. Benjamin handled the back end with his usual efficiency, but he'd begun to participate more in the creative side, joining workshops and even trying his hand at pottery. His first attempt, a wonky mug, became a shop favorite, symbolizing that everyone starts somewhere. The cooperative had grown to over 50 members, each bringing unique skills, from quilting to candle making. The warehouse now buzzed daily with activity classes on entrepreneurship, empowering participants to launch their own ventures. One success story was Rosa, whose beaded jewelry line had expanded to online sales or earnings, allowing her to move her family into a better home. Elias often cited her as an Example in motivational talks you see, he would say, "It's not just about making things, it's about making a life." As the New Year dawn challenges emerge, a supply shortage due to winter storms delayed shipments, threatening to halt production. Elias and Benjamin rallied the team, sourcing alternatives locally and even bartering with neighboring businesses. Their resourcefulness not only resolved the issue, but strengthened community ties. Evelyn's health remained a concern a bad spell left her. Disoriented during a busy day, Noah noticed first, leading her to a quiet corner. "Grandma, let's rest," he said, echoing the care he'd learned from Elias. The incident prompted them to hire a dedicated aide, a compassionate nurse named Lena, who became an integral part of the Haven family. Spring brought renewal flowers blooming outside, mirrored the shop's vibrant displays. Shelves now featured Easter baskets woven with colorful ribbons in hand. Painted eggs workshops shifted to gardening, teaching members how to create herb planters from recycled materials. Elias found solace in these sessions, the earth under his fingers reminding him of simpler times. One afternoon, a surprise visitor arrived, a representative from a national craft chain. Impressed by the online, Buzet proposed a collaboration, stocking Harper's Haven products in their stores. Benjamin negotiated the deal, ensuring fair terms that benefited the cooperative. The partnership catapulted their reach, sales soaring and allowing for expansions like scholarships for members' children. Mia excelled in school, her art projects winning awards, while Lily's boundless energy found an outlet in dance classes funded by the shop's success. Noah, too, blossomed, his shy demeanor giving way to confidence as he helped in the warehouse, organizing tools with precision. Summer arrived with warmth and longer days. The shop hosted outdoor markets in the park, booths overflowing with handmade soaps, jewelry, and wooden toys. Crowds gathered, drawn by live demonstrations and the infectious spirit of community. Elias manned a carving station, his knife dancing over wood as he created custom pieces on the spot. One hot afternoon, a family approached, sharing how a Haven ornament had become a cherished heirloom passed down through generations. "Your work touches lives," the mother said. Elias, humble, replied, "It's the people behind it that make the difference." Autumn returned, leaves turning in a symphony of reds and golds. The cycle continued with harvest-themed items, pumpkins carved from wood, and cornucopia baskets. The plaque by the door, weather but proud, still drew comments, sparking conversations about kindness. Benjamin and Elias reflected on their journey during a quiet evening. "We've come far," Benjamin said, clinking glasses, "but it's just the beginning." Elias nodded. The door we opened that night, it's still wide open, inviting more. And as years blended, the Haven model inspired similar initiatives across the country. Elias traveled, speaking at conferences, his message simple: open your door, you never know who will walk in. Evelyn's legacy lived on even as her participation waned. Her stories compiled into a book, sold in the shop proceeds funding Alzheimer's research. Noah grew into a young man, taking business classes with plans to expand cooperative internationally. Mia pursued art school, her designs gracing Haven products, while Lily's entrepreneurial spirit led her to start a kids' workshop series. Challenges persisted, economic fluctuations, health scares, but each time the community rallied, their bond unbreakable. In quiet moments, Elias would sit outside, watching the world go by, remembering the rain, the fear, the choice to help, and how it led to this: a life rich not in wealth, but in connection, proving that one act of kindness can indeed change everything. The shop stood as a testament, a beacon for those lost in their own storms, offering not just goods, but hope, a reminder that when you open the door for others, you open it for yourself too. Winter came again, snow falling softly. Elias stood at the window, Evelyn beside him, her hand is "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." He smiled, "No, thank you for showing me the way." The cycle continued, doors opening, lives changing, kindness rippling onward. The end was never truly an end, just another beginning in the story of Harper's Haven. As the holidays approached, once more the shop brimmed with festive cheer, garlands draped over shelves, twinkling lights casting a warm glow. Customers shared stories of how Haven pieces had become part of their traditions: a wooden reindeer adorning a mantle, a knitted scarf wrapped around a loved one. Elias listened, heart full, knowing each item carried a piece of the giver's soul. Benjamin organized a charity drive, collecting donations for local shelters. Members contributed handmade blankets and toys, their generosity a reflection of the spirit that founded the place. One evening, a gala celebrated the cooperative's anniversary. Attendees from near and far mingled, toasting to success. Elias took the stage, his voice steady, "Friends, family." He began, "This all started with a storm, a lost soul, an open door tonight. We celebrate not just what we built, But we become thank you for being part of this journey, applause echoed. But Elias's thoughts drifted to that rainy night, the black SUV, the partnership that blossomed into so much more later as guests departed he lingered with. Benjamin, Evelyn, Noah, and the girls, the core that held. It all together, we've done good, Benjamin, said. Elias nodded. And we're just getting started. Spring bloomed again. New members joined. Fresh ideas sparked. The warehouse expanded, adding a cafe where people could linger over coffee and conversation. The app Benjamin developed. When global connecting artisans worldwide, Elias marveled at the reach from a small porch in the rain to touching lives across ocean. Summer markets grew into festivals live. Music, food, trucks, craft, demos, drawing thousands. The publicity led to a documentary crew filming the Haven story. Elias shared openly his struggles, the act of kindness, the transformation. It brought viewers moved, reached out with their own tales of open doors. Autumn harvest yielded bountiful sales, but more importantly, fostered community bonds. Thanksgiving saw a grand feast at the warehouse tables laden with dishes from diverse cultures, members sharing gratitude for second chances. Winter's return brought reflection. Elias penned a memoir, Open Doors, chronicling the journey. It became a bestseller. Proceeds reinvested into cooperative, expanding scholarships and support programs. Evelyn's health declined, but surrounded by love, she found peace. Her final days filled with visit stories. Laughter. Noah stepped up, managing daily operations, his vision aligning with Elias's. As years passed, a legacy endured. Mia's designs gained acclaim. Lily launched a branch in another city. Benjamin's innovations kept him ahead. Elias, now in his later years, watched proudly from the sidelines, the door still open, welcoming all. The story of Harper's Haven wasn't just about one man, one night. It was about humanity's capacity for kindness, the ripple effect of compassion, and the truth that when you help another, you help yourself in the end. It was simple. Open the door and let the light in. As the season cycled, once more winter's chill gave way to the tentative warmth of spring buds unfurling on trees, mirroring the growth within Harper's Haven. The shop, now a cornerstone of Springfield, drew visitors from afar, its reputation spreading through word of mouth and glowing online reviews. Elias often found himself reflecting on the improbable path that led here, from a single act of compassion to a thriving community hub. One morning, as dew glistened on the grass outside, he opened the doors early, the air fresh with possibility. Evelyn arrived soon after, a step slower, but her spirit undimmed. Good morning, Elias. She greeted, her smile lighting the room. Noah trailed behind, carrying a box of fresh yarn for the day's workshop. Mia and Lily, already buzzing with energy, set up tables for a children's art class, their laughter a constant soundtrack to the shop's daily rhythm. Benjamin joined the mid-morning, his tablet in hand, updating Elias on the latest metrics. Our online store hit a new record last month. He announced partnerships with eco-friendly suppliers are paying off. Elias nodded, pleased, but his focus remained on the people, not just the numbers. Let's ensure the new members feel welcome, he replied. Today, we have a group from the Veteran Center coming in. The workshop on woodworking for therapy was a hit. Veterans like Tom, a retired soldier, found solace in shaping with his hands, once accustomed to harsher tasks, now creating delicate birdhouses. It's therapeutic, Tom shared during a session. Helps quiet the mind. Elias understood, having faced his own battles with loss and uncertainty. Summer brought vibrant energy. Outdoor classes in the park, teaching basket weaving under shady trees. Families picnicked nearby, drawn into the activities, one sweltering afternoon. A storm reminiscent of that fateful night rolled in, thunder rumbling as rain pelted the ground. Elias watched from the warehouse window, memories flooding back. Benjamin clapped him on the shoulder, thinking the same thing. I suppose, he said. Elias smiled. Storms bring change, and sometimes the best kind. Autumn's harvest season saw the shop adorned with pumpkins and fall foliage. Workshops on preserving foods and crafting decorations filled the calendar. Rosa, now a lead instructor, mentored newcomers, her journey from struggling single mom to empowered entrepreneur, inspiring all during a community dinner. Elias raised a toast of growth, not just in business, but in hearts. Winter returned with holidays in full swing. The shop, a wonderland of lights and ornaments. A charity auction raised funds for local families, each item donated by members, fetching high bids for a good cause. Evelyn's knitted Afghans were particularly popular, her patterns intricate despite occasional memory lapses. Noah assisted her, whispering reminders when needed. His bond with her unbreakable. As the new year approached, Elias contemplated expansion, a second location in a neighboring town. Benjamin handled logistics, while Elias focused on training staff, emphasizing the core value of kindness. In every interaction, challenges arose. A supply chain disruption threatened holiday stock, but the team improvised, sourcing locally and even creating alternatives from recycled materials. Their ingenuity turned potential disaster into innovation. Spring bloomed with fresh initiatives. A garden project at the warehouse teaching sustainable farming. Members planted vegetables, sharing the harvest with food banks. Mia's school project on environmentalism tied in perfectly her presentation, featuring Haven's efforts earning top marks. Summer festivals became annual highlights. Live music, craft demos, and kids' zones drawing crowds. The documentary aired nationally, spotlighting Elias's story. Viewers inspired reached out, some starting similar ventures in their communities. Autumn brought reflection. During a quiet evening, Elias and Benjamin reviewed the year. We've impacted thousands, Benjamin noted, but Elias replied, it's the one-on-one moments that matter, like helping Alex find his footing. Alex now ran his own metalwork line, crediting Haven for his turnaround. Winter's festivities included a visit from the mayor presenting an award for community service. Elias accepted humbly, dedicating it to everyone who opened a door. As years progressed, a legacy deepened. Mia pursued design college, interning at Haven during breaks. Lily's kids programs expanded to schools. Noah took over operations, his fresh ideas blending with tradition. Evelyn passed peacefully, surrounded by family. Her influence, eternal. Memorial bench in the park bore her name. A place for quiet contemplation. Benjamin and Elias, graying but energetic, continued guiding the ship. New storms came, economic downturns, personal losses, but resilience prevailed. The community, a safety net for all. In retrospect, Elias marveled at the ripple effect. One rainy night, a lost boy and his grandma, a black SUV, a partnership born of gratitude, leading to lives transformed. Doors open, hopes kindle, kindness, the thread weaving it all together. Harper's Haven stood not as a business, but as a beacon, proving that compassion changes everything forever. As twilight fell, Elias stood outside, watching stars emerge, remembering, whispering to the night, thank you for the storm. The end was but a new beginning. Cycles continuing, doors ever open. The story enduring in hearts touched by kindness. As spring returned once again, the garden bloomed vibrant, and full. Members gathered for a planting day. Seeds sown with care, much like the seeds of hope planted years ago. Elias knelt in the soil, his hands dirty, but his heart light. Mia beside him sketched designs for new products. Lily organized games for children. Noah oversaw logistics with ease. Benjamin documented the day for the blog. Their family extended, bound not by blood, but by shared purpose. Summer's warmth brought expansion. The new location opened a fanfare, replicating the model workshops, buzzing from day one. Elias visited, often mentoring staff, emphasizing listen to their stories. That's where the magic happens. Autumn harvest yielded abundance, a festival celebrated with feasts and fairs. Roses, jewelry shone under lights, her smile radiant. I've come so far, she confided. Thanks to this place, winter holidays sparkled brighter. A tree lighting ceremony drew the town. Carols sung, gifts exchanged. Elias reflected on personal growth, from a struggling dad to a community leader. The black SUV moment, a pivot point forever etched in memory. As another year dawned, resolutions focus on outreach, virtual classes reaching remote areas, impacting globally. The documentary sequel chronicled the growth, inspiring a movement. Spring innovations included tech integration, an app for custom orders, blending tradition with modernity. Mia's input crucial, her fresh perspective. Invaluable. Summer adventures took the team on retreats, bonding, strengthening ties. Laughter around campfire, stories shared under stars. Autumn brought awards, national recognition for social impact. Elias accepted speaking, a collective effort, not individual achievement. Winners, coziness wrapped the shop in warm. Story hours by the fire. Evelyn's book read aloud, her words living on. Noah proposed international expansion, partnerships abroad. Elias approved. Proud of his growth, the cycle persisted each season, building on the last. Challenges met with unity, successes celebrated together in quiet moments. Elias carved, remembering the boy, the grandma, the choice that changed it all. Kindness, the key. Doors open always. A legacy of Harper's Haven, a testament to humanity's best. As decades passed, the founders retired, but the spirit endured. New leaders rose, trained in compassion. The shops multiplied, a network of havens across lands. Elias, in retirement, visited, often a grandfather now, watching his grandchildren play in the spaces he built. One rainy night, he sat on the porch, the same one where it began. Thunder rumbling, a smile on his face. Storms he thought bring the best surprises. The story continued, rippling outward, touching souls, opening doors forevermore. The end truly never came, just chapters unfolding in the book of kindness. In the twilight years of Harper's Haven, the foundation laid by Elias and his companions proved unshakable. The shops had multiplied into a network spanning several states, each location a hub of creativity, and support new generations took the helm, infusing fresh energy, while honoring the origins. Noah, now CEO, oversaw operations with a blend of innovation and tradition. As initiatives included digital platforms for global artisans, connecting makers from remote villages to urban markets. Mia's design firm collaborated closely, her aesthetics shaping the brand's evolution. Lily managed community outreach, programs reaching schools and shelters, teaching skills and fostering empathy. Benjamin retired but consulted occasionally, his strategic mind ever sharp. Elias spent his days in quiet reflection, often visiting the original shop, now a historical site preserved as a museum of kindness. Visitors toured exhibits detailing the rainy night, the black SUV, and the ripple effects that followed. One display featured Evelyn's yarn works, her story told through interactive audio, her voice preserved, sharing wisdom on patience and perseverance. Children sat wide-eyed listening, inspired to create their own pieces. Spring festivals celebrated renewal with planting ceremonies, members sowing seeds in community gardens, symbolizing growth from adversity. Summer brought international exchanges, artisans from abroad visiting to share techniques. Workshops buzzed with diverse languages, united by the universal tongue of craftsmanship. Autumn harvests focus on gratitude. Annual galas honor contributors, awards given not for sales or for impact, like the single parent who rebuilt her life through the cooperative. Winter holidays emphasize giving back. Toy drives, blanket distributions, and meal shares, ensuring no one faced the cold alone. Elias, now a great-grandfather, watched his lineage thrive, his grandchildren carrying the torch. One rainy evening, echoing the past, a young woman and her child sought shelter at the shop door. The staff welcomed them, offering warmth and aid, continuing the cycle. Elias, hearing the story, smiled, knowing the door remained open as time marched on. The Haven model influenced policy, advocating for community-based support systems. Elias testified before lawmakers, his voice steady, recounting how one act sparked systemic change. Awards piled up, but he cherished letters from those. Help a veteran finding purpose, a teen escaping hardship, a family reunited through support. These were the true measures of success in his final days. Elias sat on the porch, rain pattering above. He whispered to the wind, "Thank you," for the storm. Surrounded by family, he passed peacefully, his legacy immortalized in every open door, every help hand. The story of Harper's Haven endured, a beacon proving kindnesses, enduring power cycles. Continued seasons change, but the essence remained. Open your door and let transformation begin. A narrative wove through time, inspiring countless others to act with compassion, ending not in closure, but in perpetual. Opening the script concludes here with the moral echoing eternally. The next morning, a man stopped in front of the shop and read the wooden plaque. He turned to his wife and read aloud in memory of that rainy night. When kindness opened the door, I wonder what story is behind that. Elias, standing nearby, smiled and stepped forward. It's the story of not closing your door when someone needs you, he said gently, because sometimes we're the ones who need help, we just don't realize it yet. The man nodded thoughtfully, then pushed the door open. That evening, as the sun set over Springfield, light spilled out from Harper's Haven. Not just electric light, but the glow of hope, of community, of compassion, learning how to survive on its own. Inside the shop, candles were lit. A few women continued working, their faint laughter drifting through the room. Evelyn was teaching a newcomer how to tie a yarn knot. Noah and Elias's daughters sat on the floor painting, bright colors blooming across the sheets of paper. Benjamin stood beside Elias, both of them looking out through the window. Do you know the most miraculous thing about all this? Benjamin asked. What is it? Elias turned. That it didn't start with money or a business plan or any marketing strategy. Benjamin said with a smile, it started because a man opened his door. In the middle of a storm, that's it, one small gesture, but it changed everything. Elias nodded, saying nothing more he didn't need to, because sometimes the biggest changes begin with the simplest acts, and sometimes all the world needs is someone willing to open the door. Please join us by hitting like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so each day begins with a story warm enough to soften your heart.